In this video, we are going to consider one-step conversions using the equivalence given that 1 inch is equivalent to 2.54 centimeters. So what this information is telling us is how we can relate inches, which is the English unit of measuring length, and centimeters, which is the metric unit for measuring length. So what we're going to look at is two examples here. 10 inches to centimeters first. Then we're going to try the opposite, 5.08 centimeters into inches. Okay, so let's remind ourselves, what does this equivalence tell us to be applied to dimensional analysis? When we say 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters, we can create two factors that we're going to use as conversion factors for this equivalence. So we can say that there is let's get this marker working, 1 inch per 2.54 centimeters, or there's 2.54 centimeters per 1 inch. Okay. So now, looking at our first example says 10 inches to centimeters. Okay. So what is our given unit? Our given unit is inches, and we're being asked to convert 10 inches into centimeters. So the given value is what you always start with, 10.00 inches. Okay. Now, when we set up a one-step conversion, we need to choose the conversion factor that's going to allow us to change inches into centimeters. So as we've learned and as we've discussed, what we're going to do is we need to change inches into centimeters, and we pick whichever conversion factor is going to cancel out our units diagonally, okay, to achieve our units of centimeters on top, okay? So we cancel the given units and gives us desired units on top here, okay? So looking at these two conversion factors, which one is going to have inches in the bottom? We see that it is that one. The second one that's written here puts inches here on the bottom, 1 inch on the bottom. You can write it all the way out or just as the abbreviation, 2.54 centimeters on top. Cancel out the units, okay, that we're looking to change. Cancel the units that we are changing. And then what you're left with is the units that we are looking to convert to, okay? So remember, you always focus on the units first, and then you do the math later. So now the math here, whenever we have a value on top of the fraction, it's multiplied, bottom is divided. So what this is going to be is 10.00 times 2.54, and then divide by 1. Dividing by 1 and multiplying by 1 does not change your answer. So I usually just ignore any time that we have a 1 in our calculation. Okay, so now let's think about significant figures. 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters is a definition, as we've mentioned, with exact numbers. So if something is a definition, 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters exactly, then the number of significant figures are considered infinite. Okay, so they will not be considered in your calculation here. So your final answer is going to have the number of significant figures that is in this value. Okay, and we count all of the zeros here because there is a decimal after the 0, and then there's the decimal that is before these trailing zeros. Okay, so this value has 4 significant figures. So therefore, our final answer will be rounded to 4 significant figures. When we multiply 10 by 2.54, your calculator would give you 25.4. But this value does not have the desired 4 significant figures. So to make this 4 significant figures, we're going to add a 0 at the end of the value, and then you must include your units. So we know what this value is representing. It is representing length in centimeters. 25.4 centimeters is 10 inches. So that's our first example. Our second example here is going to be changing 5.08 centimeters into inches. Okay. A quick erase here. This eraser isn't as great as I hoped, but that's okay. It does the job well. Well, good enough. Okay. All right, looks okay on the screen there. Okay, so now we've completed this first example. The second example here is now taking centimeters and changing it into inches. So the value, the given value is what we start with, 5.08 centimeters. Now we must decide on our conversion factor. Okay, so now if we have centimeters here and we want to achieve inches, then we're going to need to have inches here on the top and centimeters on the bottom. So now which one of these conversion factors have that? You will see we will then use this conversion factor this time. So we will write 1 inch on the top and 2.54 centimeters on the bottom. This is going to allow us to cancel the units diagonally. Okay, dimensional analysis always involves canceling units diagonally. Okay, and then now what's left is to do the math. So the math here, remember, you multiply the top, divide the bottom. 5.08 times 1 gives you the same value. And then we divide by 2.54. 5.08 divided by 2.54. We're going to put this into our calculator. Okay. So have your calculator handy, and we're going to put this in our calculator. Divide by 2.54. All right, now what the calculator gives you is 2. Okay, but is this answer acceptable? According to significant figures, we need to account for the precision of this value. This value gives us 1, 2, 3 significant figures. So therefore, our final answer must also show that same amount of precision. So we're going to say 2.00 inches. Okay. And then that completes our examples of using the equivalence 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters.